Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lang. This week is different because we have a round table. This past weekend was NAMM, and for those who don't know what NAMM is, it's basically the biggest music convention for all the new gear, instruments, and all the new technology coming out in music. So I was there with Avid this year, and I was giving a presentation every day about I mixed Bleed together into Dolby Atmos, and that will be a conversation for later. But on Sunday of NAMM, they actually gave us a spot where we could actually do a round table, and it was about 1:30 in the afternoon in the heat of the convention. And on this round table, I have returning guest Oumi Kapila, Nick Rossi, Anthony Baldino, Not Sorry, Jared Forkner, and Greg Chin. And I just want to say a big thank you to Avid for giving me the platform, and they actually got us 7 beers on stage, which is pretty cool. So for a company that seems to be very corporate, they are very, very down to earth and very kind. So thank you, everyone involved over there.
Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my little panel here. We launched with a round table, and it's pretty fitting. About a year later, we recorded the first one about a year ago, right after NAMM. So it's pretty fitting. A year later, we get to do a round table again. So starting from stage left, Oumi Kapila. Oumi is a very talented composer, does a lot of trailer music. In a previous life, he played guitar in bands such as Filter and Combi Christ. Next to him is Nick Rossi, who plays drums in Combi Christ. Anthony Baldino, who is another very exciting electronic artist, very talented trailer music composer in general, and on a personal note, my closest friend, so I'm biased. Anthony Palazzoli, also known as Not Sorry, and dubstep, drum and bass, runs Play Me Records, makes a lot of very cool sound design stuff. Next to him is Jared Forkner, who I met, he introduced me to Dolby Atmos. And all the way on the right, we have Greg Chin, who many of you know from working at Avid, but he's just been incredibly kind to me, and he's a lovely person, and he would never admit to any of it, but I'm very glad he's here. So it's a round table, it's open format. We're just going to shoot the shit and drink a beer for about 45 minutes, and we'll see where it goes. So I'm going to kick it off with, and more beers. I'll kick it off because in the spirit of NAMM, what is the most exciting thing you've seen here gear-wise? And anyone can just start, pick it up. I'm not going to hold it for you. You got to do that yourself. Yeah.
For me, it's going to be the Linstrument.
Yeah.
If you're familiar, has everybody heard of the Linstrument? It's I think. I guess I'm usually very traditional and haven't embraced technology the way that yourself and many other people have. But it's great because it allows you to become more expressive, even, I feel, than a lot of organic instruments. If you haven't checked it out, is he here?
Probably with Dave Smith.
Roger Lynn.
Is Dave Smith here?
Dave Smith's not here. No,
and he's probably not either. They're
scattered at Reverb and Pro Audio.
Okay.
But Linstrument, go and check it out. That's my top pick.
Nick? Thanks, buddy. Just talk. Yeah.
I don't actually know what this instrument is called, but I've seen it around and online and stuff like this. But it's this bowl that's about this big, and it's. I saw it in the drum area and where I was wandering around yesterday, and people are slapping it with their thumbs like a bass and stuff, and you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, was it a hong drum?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes these crazy sounds. Like,
beautiful.
Like really interesting. Like,
do they still have one up there?
I think so. I mean, there was a whole booth with them, but the booth had no sign.
Can you take me after?
We can try. Let's go on an adventure together and try to find it. Let's do that, because I'd actually like to learn the name of this instrument and maybe fiddle around with it a little bit. I think it'd be fun.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Hello. Most interesting. I'm going to throw out a couple. I didn't get to hear, but seeing that Qubit is doing a new granular module, and I love that Eurorack in general is just being pushed further and further and further. I always go and check out the Shadow Hills mastering compressor and just drool over it and hope that someday I could buy one or just steal one. And the black box stuff.
Pensato's really into that.
Yeah. I have the plug-in, and I just want the hardware because it is tasty.
Yes.
And that's it.
Since you stole mine, the nebulae, the
Scanner.
the scanned oscillator that Qubit's making is really interesting. And then Jonathan Little's making a really cool headphone amp.
Okay.
Just seems like something I could use regularly with Odysseys.
Right. Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the modular tip too. Thanks to you guys in particular, pushing that needle into my arm.
Guilty.
It's just been fascinating to see all of the new stuff and the new possibilities of all the different guys making things. It's so much fun and so dangerous.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I can't pick any one thing because it's just I feel like a kid in a candy store for the first time. I'm so happy to see it all. Yeah.
Sweet. Mr. Chin.
So I've been tethered to the booth and the main stage here, so I really haven't had a chance to peruse. But the things I've wanted to see, some of the new IntelliGel modules, and then specifically the noise engineering stuff, which I'm hoping I get a chance to see. So that would be awesome. Thank you. If I can, maybe I'll try and hightail it over there. But so just to be in the sense of transparency and honesty for the actual gear that I have seen, I'm going to say the coolest thing I've seen gear-wise has been working toilets.
Yeah, no kidding. Although there have been pretty long lines upstairs where one of the urinals goes out. I learned that the hard way. But so the one thing I also really like about all of us that all interconnects us together, and even Greg, even though you are corporate man half the time, we all are independent artists, and we all live for the most part just on our own music, which is really challenging. So my question for all of you that I want to throw around is, what do you find the most challenging thing to be as far as sustaining yourself, not only financially, but artistically, especially in this new day where we have Instagram, social media, SoundCloud, Spotify, all the distractions, and also competing against a generation in a way, and I don't want to sound biased by this, but we now have a generation that's coming up right behind us, because we're, for the most part, all in our 30s. And we now have this younger generation that is so social media focused that they're actually, for the most part, it seems, eschewing the actual music creation in favor of the social media. But as the audience really also evolves to that same point, they're connecting in a different way. So how do you guys, navigate growing, I suppose, into dinosaurs as you get older, but also in the same way connecting with an audience that in some form or another is almost detaching from us?
I find it really challenging to balance, like, making progress with some of the goals that I have musically and artistically, and creating content, I would guess is what it would be for your social media stuff. I actually have recently taken a complete hiatus from posting anything, as I recently got some microphones and started to really dive in on recording myself, like my drum kit in the practice space. And
what mics did you get?
I got Blue. Blue actually gave me some really cool mics, and so I've really done just a lot of live drumming my whole career. So this whole sitting in a room and fiddling with an interface and trying tunings, and you ask him, I come home every night and I'm like, or I'm giving him a call, I can't get it to play back. Just super basic stuff. But like, as I'm trying to navigate that stuff, I find it really challenging to, I guess, maintain this sort of social media aspect, and because it's important to me, I've gotten a little bit of work from it anyway, or it's garnered a little bit of attention for me. So I know that it's not a complete waste of time, but I really struggle with that, and I think it's just the becoming comfortable with sharing you sounding like crap. Right. Because if you're gonna, it's a lot of that as you're figuring things out. So I think that, just taping everything. My way to mitigate that recently has been time lapses, because there's no audio. So you can see me running around and fiddling with things, and you don't have to hear how bad it is.
I think there's also a different level of expectation as far as, when you hear things off of your phone in a 1 minute long clip. That's a very, very different presentation than an actual piece of production.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. That's the social media thing is so bizarre, because I've talked to people that it's not done anything for them.
Yep.
And a lot of people that I look up to don't even have accounts. You can't follow them. You can't see what they're up to. And they're the most they're the busiest people in the industry.
Right.
You know? And so balancing that with people like you mentioned, coming up right behind us that are garnering their attention and getting the majority of their work from their presence online. I think that we're in a weird spot where it's like we're kind of in the middle. You know what I mean? We didn't build our careers necessarily before it. It was there, but it wasn't as prominent as it is now. And that's a good question because I'm really trying to figure it out, and I'm looking forward to what everyone else has to say.
That's why I'm asking you, because I honestly don't know.
Neither do I. I'm just throwing things out there and seeing what works and what doesn't really. But the time is very challenging, I would say. It's the time of creating the content and, maybe editing stuff versus the actual sitting down and, tuning the drums and trying this mic placement and trying this level on the interface versus, you know what I mean? Like that whole thing. So I don't know, man. Maybe it wasn't a great answer or direct.
No. I think you answered exactly the right kind of answer I wanted. Yeah.
But I think with doing that, like if you even just did videos of you trying different mic placements or anything like that, like little quick things, people respond so well to that because they're so curious about everything behind what's the pushed front.
You're right. And a big part is mentally getting over the whole no one cares.
Yeah.
Like I have to get over like maybe somebody does care, and you know what I mean? I don't know. Like I've always had it in my head like who cares?
Well, that's always been the most interesting thing to me was finding out what people are doing, when they're making a song, or how did they come up with this interesting concept, or how did they mic something, in that weird way down a hall when they did like a full drum kit.
Right, and so I think it's just I think I need to be more open to that it goes both ways. I care what these are like. I would love to watch some videos on mic placement from some of the guys that work in. There's a few drummers that do some studio stuff at their house that I'm very interested in. Aaron Sterling, Ash Sohn, people like that, and I would love to see what they're doing. And I think it's just the whole getting past. Why would somebody care what I'm doing? I'm at this tiny level down. I think anybody would be fascinated with what Ash and Aaron and stuff are doing. I just have to maybe be more open to it being a two-way street versus one way.
Yeah,
I kind of think you're right on that. For me, the whole social media thing. I mean, I know we kind of got into that part of the conversation. To me, that's just always been something that has been something I don't really give a crap about. In a sense of, I don't schedule stuff like at 7 a.m. this morning. I've got to post because that's what the social media rules say for me to get maximum impact. I don't care about that stuff. Now, maybe because of that, I don't have 1 million followers. I don't have 50,000. I don't have 10,000 followers. I've got maybe 3,000 followers almost, but they're 3,000 followers that actually give a crap about what I'm doing. And I'm not preaching. I'm just kind of saying, like, because I've not really cared about that since day one, specifically my Instagram, which goes over to my Twitter and Facebook, it's an amalgamation of a bunch of things. So one day you're going to see me running around with my wife and daughter. One day you're going to see me in the studio, like getting like knee deep into some crazy whatever. One day it's going to be me, sitting on the couch playing. Yeah, it's my life as it happens. And the only time I post is when there's something like light bulb goes off. I'm like, this could be interesting to those people, and I don't mind sharing it. So that's when I do it. And I think the advantage for me has been that I don't have to stress about it so much, and the followers that I do have and can get on a whatever basis, they're okay with that. They're ingrained in what's going on there, and they're not expecting, well, it's 5 o'clock, so Greg's going to post his gig list and So it becomes very natural, and I've actually talked to a few people that follow me, and they're like, yeah, I like that I get to see you testing a bottle of wine, or picking up your dog's poop outside, which has happened. So it's that kind of like natural kind of thing.
Both wine and dog poop are relatable.
Said the guy drinking an IPA.
Also relatable. This is the secret. You show your flaws, and then people understand that it's okay to be flawed also.
100%. 100%.
But it works. Anthony, Oumi, what is your take on all of this? And both of you are pretty quiet on that front, so that's why I'm curious how you handle it.
Yes. I guess about a year ago, I got really into yoga. In particular, something called Kundalini Yoga. If anyone's ever tried that, highly recommend it. If anyone listens to Joe Rogan or any of those guys, they talk about it a lot, and it's akin to having a psychedelic experience, or it can be, if anyone's ever tried LSD or mushrooms or anything like that. And I tried it a couple of times, and the first time was kind of like an intense yoga class. It's more to do with breathing and, really intense breathing and some chanting and stuff. I'm not religious or anything like that, but I was very curious to try it out. And the second time I did it, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, the second time I tried this, I went home, and as I was lying there going to bed, it's very hard to explain what happened, but I lifted out of my head and went into this, can't even describe what it was, but went down a kind of a spatial hole, and I felt like I was rushing out of my head. Yeah, and I wasn't on any drugs or anything like that, but I actually had to open my eyes for a second just to make sure I was still, sounds strange, but I was still lying in the bed. It was that intense. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to ride this out. And it was a wonderful feeling. It wasn't scary, but it was unlike anything else that I'd ever been through. Anyway, I woke up the next morning, and without thinking about anything, I just realized I've got to get off social media, which happened immediately and lasted for about 9 months. Also, something else happened. I woke up, I had all these ideas, and I sat in the studio from about noon till about 7 a.m. the next morning. It just became this, something happened and something released or whatever. And I guess if you're looking at it from a physiological point of view, anything that has anyone tried this Kundalini thing with the breathing? It's such intense, physical, powerful breathing that...
Wim Hof breathing? Is it the Wim Hof thing? Or
I'm not familiar with the Wim Hof breathing.
It's one of the other ones that I've heard like Tim Ferriss talk about, and yeah, where it's like you do this like breathing thing and it kind of lowering your... Yeah, it's like...
I have a little experience with yoga.
Okay. Oh, yes, I know that you do.
And yes.
Okay.
It can be helpful in that, and there is a reason why I don't do it anymore. But I think I never felt the elevation that you did.
Well, I don't know if I'm lucky, or maybe you didn't try this certain type, but I think because of just the intense breath, it releases something within your brain or chemicals or in your adrenals, or the way that the Kundalini philosophy is that there's all this latent energy that sits at the base of your spine, and if you read about it, it's through our spine there's something called cerebrospinal fluid, and it's got something to do with that. Anyway, I think that's something that if you want to check it out, you should do. But after that, it just basically, I kind of had a shift in consciousness and the way that I was thinking, and this really funny, elevated, kind of floaty state lasted for about 6 weeks. And I didn't go back to yoga or anything during that point because I didn't want to change what was going on. You know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it was kind of a really bizarre pseudo psychedelic state that I wouldn't say trapped in, I was just sort of floating on. But with that came a lot of revelations and a lot of introspection, and I think it was a really beneficial thing that I went through, and didn't touch social media. And I found that if you can look around anywhere. You probably look down at this guy's doing it right now. He's looking on his phone as he's walking down. He doesn't even know what's happening. Hi. But it's because of this thing that's in your pocket, you just become conditioned to looking at it all the time. And instead of focusing on something that's important or something creative, or might be a lyrical idea or a song or something creative or just anything that actually matters, you automatically go through and people start scrolling through, and it's just a form of chewing gum where you're biding time and you're escaping things that are for reasons of fear or could whatever, just to get a little deeper and explore. So I think the reason I got back on it was I watched an interview with Steve Vai, who not so much into that kind of guitar playing anymore, but I think he's a wonderful educator, philanthropist, philosopher, and a great role model. And he has a lot of great things to say about any subject. And he was talking about embracing technology and not being a dinosaur, and you have all these great tools and don't push it away and use whatever's there to your advantage to get your stuff out there. And I thought, you know what, you're right. I'm being an idiot, and I need to not be arrogant about it. And So anyway, I got back on it, and still haven't found myself posting very much, but it's really great for discovering things and discovering other artists and ways of thinking. And I think educationally, it's one of the greatest things out there. YouTube has become a university. You could spend literally 3 years learning about mixing on YouTube, and you might even come out better because you're focusing on things that you want to be able to learn, and you can really target the type of classes that you want to take. And most of them are free, and some of them have Patreons and Kickstarters and whatnot. So I think from that side of things, it's a very, very positive thing. I know I check out a lot of tutorials and I love seeing what gear other guys are using. I love when you're posting modular things and what's going on there, you know. And I think getting back to it, one of the greatest battles that Nick lives with me at the moment. And every night, he's getting back from the studio and he's just getting into recording, and he's just figured out how to hook up his Focusrite or whatever you have to Ableton. It's really exciting. And he came back and he showed me this, what did you put? You did a time lapse of a GoPro. I thought it was really interesting. It's someone that's getting in at the base level and how am I doing this? And, I think while everyone's posting all this shiny stuff about success and how great stuff is, I think it's very valuable to see the process and development, right?
I think that there's like this pendulum where we have this new technology and it's being used in horrible ways for vanity and all the wrong reasons. And we're learning slowly how to use it more responsibly. It is a great tool, but you see kids walking by, they're on their phones. Like, I used to love the randomness of meeting people. You're in a line, you're in a queue someplace, right? You meet 2 or 3 people around you. And 15 years ago, you might become friends with them for the rest of your life. And now, you miss that moment because everyone's staring at their phone. And I consciously stepped away a little bit, not entirely a few years ago, but in line, I try and not look at my phone so I can try and meet people, make a conversation. Remember that I'm here. If I was staring at my phone the whole time, I'm not going to gain anything from any interaction. So hopefully, as the pendulum swings back, we get a little bit more responsible with how we use social media.
I want to pivot a little bit from the social media, only because you, Anthony Baldino, did this modular performance yesterday over at Qubit, and it was kind of face-melting because I don't understand at all how you do a lot of that stuff. So I was wondering if you could explain kind of the ethos behind how you look at some of these modular synthesizer patches that you make, because they are very alien and rhythmically complicated, but constantly evolving.
Yeah, I think some of the best parts about modular is of course you can control everything, but finding modules like circadian rhythms where you can dial in a whole bunch of patterns, but then start to tweak it so it's all random.
Yeah.
So you're never going to have the same, even if you have everything patched the same way, it's going to be different every performance, but still sound like you in a weird way. And I've been using the Morphogene a lot for Make Noise, and that's been amazing because I can take all my studio productions and take just the glitch parts and put that into there, and I kind of play it back the same way, but it's like live remixing. I don't know what else to say about it. It's like unending land of exploratory golden nuggets.
I have a question.
Okay, I probably have an answer.
So, when you make a patch, do you know where you're going, or do you just playground?
I mean, it depends. If I'm doing a show, I definitely know where I'm going, because if I'm working on a new track, I can just get lost for hours. And you know how it goes trying to get ready for a show. You have 3 weeks, maybe less, and you just got to knock it out. So I typically know where I'm going. I typically make the same kick drums, go to the same tools, but somehow it's always different.
Well, I'm going to give one last question that I would like everyone to kind of input on, and after that we'll open this up to fan question, or not fan question, that sounds assholey. I'm sorry. Well, I'm used to being on a stage as a DJ. It's
okay. We
it's a
still love
different
you.
thing. But anyway, the one thing I'd like to ask, and I'd really like to get everyone else's input in this, because this is a question I ask myself a lot, and then we'll open the floor up, is, and let's just go, you know what we did left to right before, let's go right to left. What's the biggest mistake you've made that you've learned the most from?
Being born. Oh, no. God damn, Matt.
So dark and
You're going to go there. But, it's funny, but it's actually kind of true. I would...
Technically, that's your mom's problem.
And my dad's, I guess.
Yeah.
I would
Takes two.
probably say thinking that I've got total control over so much of what I'm doing artistically. I think one of the things I've kind of learned, and I've had to kind of relearn, especially being here, working here with everybody here at Avid and trying to balance my entire schedule and all that, I try and control everything. And I think one of the things I've learned from that is I've forgotten that there's an entire side of the artistic process that is just extremely crazy and violent and should happen. But when you're trying to control that, you're pocketing yourself into this crazy, this little box. And that might work for a release, for a label or something, but you're really kind of doing your true self a disservice. And I think, that.
Fair.
Mine is very related to yours, which is trusting my gut and not my mind. Because I will overthink things and analyze things, and in the root of it, my heart is telling me what to do. Not put myself in a box, not make everything need to be so logical. Because my brain functions that way, but my heart is a different way, and my creativity comes from my heart. I just need to let that go.
Right.
And that has been a big disservice to me over the last 5 years in particular, where I stopped following my heart because of that's a different discussion. But if I had followed my heart, it would be a very different situation. So just following your heart, following your soul, and letting that guide you.
Striving for perfection.
Really?
I know that I've finished songs 2 years before I finished a song, and after 2 years, trying to make every little bit perfect, killed the vibe or whatever, lost it. And I still enjoy the original version. May not be sonically there, whatever. But I think trying to let go of that as much as possible and just work forward. And one thing I've been doing is rendering shit down really quick.
Yeah.
And then push forward the writing. So I'm not changing parts. I'm just getting it out. And then by the end of it, it's by the end of writing, it's pretty mixed.
Yeah.
It's done. And
it also comes down to no matter how cool the sound design is, how good the mixing is, the actual song is so much more important than anything you could do technically.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I was thinking before when you were talking about the social media side of things. If you write great songs, people are going to enjoy it. People are going to find your music. You're going to connect with people on a much more personal way than if you posted a really cool cat picture or an amazing sandwich photo.
Blame Avid for that?
No, that's a great cat picture, though.
I think we're all kind of saying the same thing through a slightly different but related emotion. My biggest regret is just being scared my whole life of stepping into, not the spotlight, but to bring it back to social media. Let me post this patch? Oh, I shouldn't do that. No one's going to like it. I have records that I've been sitting on that are done, and it's not as good as Matt stuff or Richard Devine stuff, and it's never gonna be up to their level. And then I'll play it for people years later, here's this garbage record I finished. Dude, I cried at that.
Yeah, and the problem is everyone thinks you're an asshole when you don't put it out. Then
I know, but the whole time you're but it's so It's like everyone watching me poop. It makes me nervous, and I don't I'm scared. Too scared, so I don't know.
I gave you the War of Art, didn't I?
No. Thanks a lot.
I've been told to read that by several people.
I would say mine is being a little more honest with the people around me. Be it there's been a handful of times where I've felt that I've been maybe with a project or working with people that it didn't serve my like my ultimate goal and like where I want to go and like what's really the direction that I want to head. But I'm afraid to break away because of, you know, maybe this person did something really cool for me, or you don't want to like step on any toes or hurt their feelings, or you don't, even more so is like you're afraid that a step in a different direction is the wrong step for you, even though your gut's kind of telling you to do it, but you have these other factors and you listen to those factors more, and it's like, well, is this person gonna be upset like if I stop doing this? Or so that's kind of something that I've been trying to get away from, and recently took a huge step, and for me personally it was taking a step away from touring and sitting at home to study, record myself, dive into that world to get a little bit better, because for a very long time all I ever wanted to do was tour, and I got to that point and I was able to do it, but I wasn't happy with my playing. I wasn't confident in it. I'll go on stage every night and there'd be maybe a fill on the record that I wasn't able to recreate live, or certain things like this, and I felt that if I just would be able to take a step away for a year or 6 months and study and really say no to things. I think saying no is my big thing. Is I'm afraid to say no a lot of times, and it's scary.
Guilty.
Yeah. It's really scary to say no, because you're like, am I ever going to get another opportunity? Is anyone ever going to ask me again? Am I, did I just put the nail in my coffin am I done? You know what I mean? And it's really scary to almost turn down work sometimes, even though if it's necessarily not something you want to do, or so that's definitely been my biggest mistake
problem.
Is, yeah.
I don't sleep. I don't finish my own music because I'm doing trailers and doing someone else's record, and my girlfriend's mad at me. And I've never taken a trip ever. But it's so important to say no, because
it is, and serve yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like make sure that you're happy, because I think that if you say no to the right things and you do it for yourself, it may seem selfish and dumb at the time, but overall...
But it's also super healthy.
Exactly.
Because you have some time to reflect on, like, oh, I do enjoy doing this, and not so much that, so it's cool that I say no, and I don't care.
That's it. And I recently had said no to a couple of tours, and it really... Because I did that and had the time to do this, I've completely refallen in love with the drums and my instrument. Yeah. Whereas before I was completely stale and just so over it, and like... I knew that in order to get to the next step and be happy, I was going to have to do this, but I was so scared to stop the touring and start the studying, So
totally
saying no, I guess boiling it down is mine.
Seems like a common theme. I'm going to expand on that. Biggest mistake, saying yes. And to add to that, staying in things way past the expiration date for fear of not having another gig, fear of losing cred, or for the status of the project that you're in. It's not for people that aren't producers or musicians or touring members. It's like being in a relationship that you and I hope nobody has to go through this, but I've stayed in relationships where I've stayed 2 years past the date where I know that it's not working and it should go, but you stay in it for reasons probably rooted more in fear than anything else. To give you an example, and I won't mention the artist, but I was part of a record for a fairly well-known band, and halfway through it became a very psychologically stressful headfuck, for lack of a better word, to the point where I had my first ever anxiety attack I've ever had, and I didn't know what was going on. Luckily my girlfriend at the time was there, and she knew what was happening, and it wasn't a very pleasant thing, but I thought, what the hell am I doing? This is not why I got into music, you know what I mean? It was kind of sort of a realization, and I did stay with it, and I stayed with the project. Cut a long story short, the next time when the next record came around, I got asked to do it. I said no, and I was very proud of myself, and it was a big step in saying no to a profile project because of the fact of your own mental health. And I think you have to ask yourself, why did I do music? Why did I get into this? It's not for any sort of status, and it shouldn't be for fame. It shouldn't be for any other reason that you're loving what you're doing. Because if you take it for any other reason that will start wearing on you, and it's going to make you less creative, it's going to make you less happy. It doesn't matter how much money they're throwing at you or how famous you're going to get, or none of that. It's got to be about the music and nothing else. And I think with that philosophy, you'll make better art and you'll be happier. That's all I got to say.
So, with corporate permission, do we have time for 2 questions? We can do 2? All right. Pick anyone you like, or all of us?
Everyone. I think it seems like everybody here has extreme anxiety and fear. You just got to get online. You got to post on the social networks. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. You're going to get over it. Secondly, to make that process easier, I think that there should be some type of, not an aggregator, but some type of indie service that can basically take your content and post it for you. So you don't have to do that yourself, really. Those
are called managers.
Yeah. Or something, $10 a month, $20 a month, some service like that. It's yet to come. So
there are many careers based purely on doing people's social media. It's actually. But any other?
Can I have a referral?
You're asking the wrong crowd. But if we had those people, we wouldn't have this anxiety about it, probably. There we go. One more. Just pass the mic around, whoever. If not, then no more questions, and we are done. So thank you all for listening.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone up here on the panel.
Thank you for having us.
Oumi, Nick, Anthony, Jared, Greg. Thank you, Avid, for giving us the spotlight and being so generous with their time and equipment and support.